Well, I'd like to introduce you now to our preacher today, Doug Padgett. Doug is a national speaker, he's a writer, he's a pastor, he's got this wide imagination that you're gonna have the opportunity to hear about today.
We are gonna do this ride that Julio mentioned, where we're gonna ride our bikes from San Diego across the country to St. Augustine, Florida. We're going to do that along and as near to the U.S.-Mexico border as we can to bear witness to the experience of people. It's going to take us 67 days to do this. Here we go.
Our primary effort is to take the stories that we learn along the border and to tell them over time with people around the United States.
They killed her husband, and they have nowhere to go.
Especially in places that we think the political opinion about the border could really have impact on who we are as a country and who represents us.
Republicans have made a deliberate effort to talk to religious voters, and we really believe many evangelical voters really do want to find a new option.
This is the way we choose in this country to manage this part of the border, is to make this desert so deadly that if anyone crosses here, they're going to suffer in the desert.
Todos son muertos.
Todos.
We're 400 feet to a water tank and 800 feet to the road. Just didn't quite make it.
The systems that are created, they didn't just exist. Someone made them. And if we made them, we can change them.
Hey, thanks for that little applause. We appreciate that. We've just started showing this documentary to people a week ago in Pittsburgh. So you're like the 7th group that has seen it. So really, truly, thank you for being here. We're going to take you on this ride with us tonight. You're going to come along on this journey. And I just want to make a couple of things pretty clear. It's, even though that starts out, you know, with that, oh, don't worry about that. Don't worry a minute about, if the world is interrupted by children, we've got a broken world. So let's just let children do children-y things. Is that fair enough for us? Hi, Rosie. Hi, Rosie. Well, yeah, this is just, you know, really him. So if you go back to the table back there, make a donation, think about Rosie while you're at it, that would be great. Rosie lives across the street from Shelley and I, and we live across the street from Rosie, so that's sort of what's going on here. Hi, Rosie. This documentary is really not about us. It's not about our ride in one sense. Our ride was a vehicle. It was a vehicle to allow us to get close and to see. Also, you know, one other note. When we started this project and started riding on September 11th of this last year, I wasn't much of a biker. Some of you I know pretty well, and I don't even like biking. I didn't own a bike I could use on the bike ride. I had to go buy one to make this work. So we learned a lot about biking, but we did it to learn a lot about what's happening on our border. And that's what we want it to be about. So a little fun note. Last night we were in Madison doing the same thing. A person came up and said, hey, do you know about a woman named Ann Winkler-Morey? She rode her bike from Minneapolis to Maine and then down to Florida and then over to San Diego and with her husband and then up to Vancouver and then back to Minnesota, rode the entire circumference of the United States and wrote a book about it that I'm reading right now. It's really great. Do you know about her? I'm like, no, I don't know about her. And he said, well, she's in Minneapolis. So I got her email and sent her a note, and she came tonight and has her book in the back there, so you should buy her book. And it's about the justice system in the United States and immigration and these things. And part of the reason we're traveling around and doing this and talking and raising our voices is to find all the other people who are doing this and talking and raising their voices. So that's what we're up to. That's why we're doing this. That's why we're making a documentary. We think documentaries help people share the story. So tonight you're going to hear from some people on that screen. You're going to hear from some people in person. You're going to hear from some people in both places. We call this the We the People ride because we were asking a fundamental question: who's included in the we? That's been important to me in just life. It's been important to me in our family, in my Christian faith, and most certainly, as we all know, it's the preamble of the Constitution. So it's a question that we ask in our country. I don't think we've always answered that question very well. I think there's a whole lot of reasons that we haven't. Our ride included a whole bunch of ordinary people, some that came for a day, some that came for 3 days, some that came for a week. There wasn't a serious biker in the bunch, but now we're all like, no, we were part of a cross-country bike ride, and so now we feel ourselves to be serious bikers. So, I mean, not Winkler Maury serious bikers, but you know, serious in our own right. We spent a lot of time along the wall. You're going to see a lot about the wall. I have very strong feelings about the wall, and it's a character in this documentary and some of what you're going to hear tonight. And I think it's a national shame. And you're going to see a lot of it. That barbed wire is on the U.S. side of the border, by the way. So you sort of wonder who's in prison in all this. We spent time with Border Patrol. We started our ride meeting with them, asking them about what they do and why they do it. We also saw Border Patrol doing what they do, which is gathering up people in the desert and detaining them and then driving them back to other places in Mexico that they know no one and dropping them off in the middle of the night, hundreds of miles from where they were picked up, only to then be captured up by the cartel. You're going to hear it from Dora. You're going to hear it from Alma Ruth. That is what the United States stated policy is to do. We say common good immigration and border practices. What we're doing on our border does not fit what any of us would say is the remote level of good or common good. So there are some practices that we know can be changed without any legislative change. It can simply be changed by changing the practice. So you're going to see a bit of that as we travel. We traveled in an RV. We slept in tents, sometimes in hotels. Tim Gilman is here. He might still be upstairs, but Tim Gilman drove that RV all the way across the country and now has been driving with us on this tour. And so you'll have a chance to meet Tim tonight. That was our support vehicle. By the way, Ann and David, they went solo, no support, unsupported trip. I feel like we should just all turn around and listen to them talk for the next 60 minutes. But incredible. But part of what we were trying to do is create a space so people who weren't into biking or didn't know how this was going to go could just come and join us. So we carried a trailer full of equipment that people could utilize and just hop on a bike, e-bikes, pedal-only bikes, all that kind of thing. And I think that's an important part of what we need to do in our country is create ways for more people to be involved. Sometimes social issues turn into who's the most extreme. And we're not going to get anywhere until everybody can feel like they're part of social movement. So that's something we're going to do. We're going to do a little trivia tonight at a series of times, partly to engage that other part of your brain. It can get a little heavy when you start to see these stories and hear from these people. So we want to kick in that analytical part of your brain and turn up a little competition for those of you who are looking for a little competition. All right. You should have a piece of paper, maybe a card or a white piece of paper or something there. We're going to ask you to write your answers on that, and then when you get them right, you hold them up and you wave them around. It's the way you get to look around the room and see who else got them right with you. And then at the end, we'll ask you to put your name and any information you want us to have to get on our email list or our text message list and drop it off the table in the back. All right, so what percentage of Americans say that our country is strengthened because of immigrants' hard work, as opposed to saying that immigrants take something from our country? So what percentage of people say that our country is benefited? Is it 24%? 48%, 66%, or 82%? What percentage of people say in the United States say our country is strengthened by immigrants? Go ahead and write that down on a little piece of paper there so somebody around you can check you for cheating. All right, and the answer is 66%. How many people wrote 66%? Yeah, that's pretty good news, isn't it? Now, who wrote 82%? Who put down? Okay. Well, nobody. All right. So it's better news than a lot of you, right? Thought. Here's the thing. We have a story in our head that most people think that immigration is bad for our country. People are telling us that. Some of what we want to do tonight is just to help us all open our eyes to the things that we've seen and to the things that we've noticed. We had 3 lessons learned along this ride. One was the U.S. side of our U.S.-Mexico border is not dangerous like people say it is. We had a fundamental question we asked nearly everyone. What do you know by living here that you wish people in the rest of the country knew? Over and over and over. We have super cuts of people saying this. I wish people would know it's not dangerous like others say that it is. They said it in California, they said it in Arizona, they said it in New Mexico and in Texas, everywhere. It's not like that. That was lesson number one. The U.S. side of the Mexico border is not dangerous. I don't know what that clicking and banging is, but we'll just tolerate, I guess. Second lesson we learned, it's extremely dangerous, our U.S.-Mexico border, if you're a migrant. In fact, it's designed to be deadly. We use pain and death as deterrents to keep people from crossing the desert. The migrant camps that people are forced to stay in because of U.S. policies, extremely dangerous. Turning people over to cartels, drug cartels, who they don't want nothing to do with, makes life extremely dangerous for them. It's dangerous for their families, it's dangerous for their bodies, it's dangerous for their minds. So the crisis on our border is on the Mexico side of the border, where our U.S. policy has created the danger. The third lesson we've learned, the people who solve that problem on that side of the border are small nonprofits, almost exclusively run by women on shoestring budgets. You're going to meet some of those people. So the government spends a whole lot of money creating a problem and then puts it right on the backs of people that are trying to solve that, either when they've crossed over into the country legally with legal permission or are forced to stay in Mexico. So those are a couple realities we want to show you in the video. You're going to see one here about the first one. We're going to show you two little 3-minute clips back to back. One of them is us riding upon this place called the Junkyard Bar. We're just riding into McAllen, Texas. We're coming up, following our little path on our GPS, on our bikes, and we see the wall. And we're like, well, that wall, which we didn't know at the time we saw it, is actually 150, 200 yards inside the U.S. borderline, but they do that some places, put the wall a little deeper inside. But right along the wall, we pull up, and it's a half-completed wall, and we pull up, and we look over to the side, and 100 yards over, there's a honky-tonk full of people at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Thursday. So we spent a little time with those folks, and you're going to hear what they say. And then we got on a riverboat that went down the Rio Grande, the riverboat that went right down from McAllen, Texas, with Mexico on one side and the United States on the other. The Rio Grande is the divider between the two countries. This is the very place that just months earlier, a bunch of Republican governors had gotten together to talk about how dangerous the border is. It stirred up a whole story. Maybe you remember that when they were all called there to call the National Guard out. And the governor of Texas was asking other states to send their National Guard down to Texas because it's such a crisis. It's exactly the place you're going to see. And the man that's driving the riverboat that we're going to be talking to has lived there for 45 years, drives that river every single day, and he's someone who knows. And what we found out is when you get close, you realize there's a whole different story to what's going on than when you stay too far away. So here's going to be two of those stories.
You're riding bike?
Bicycles, yeah, that's our bikes up there.
Oh, wow.
I think this is the border, guys. Right? Yeah. We are legally crossed it right now.
We started riding in San Diego.
Oh, wow, okay.
We're going into Reynosa, Mexico tomorrow. And
You're going into Reynosa,
yeah,
huh?
we work with people that do humanitarian work with migrants and asylum
so you've
seekers.
got people with you.
Yeah.
Because Reynosa's not a really good place. Now you can go in Progreso, you don't need anybody with you. But if you're going to go to Reynosa, you need people with you.
Yeah, we work.
I'm originally from Minnesota, but
Are
I
you?
just want to know those people
moved there as
over
a
there
kid?
are Minnesotans.
These two sitting
Yeah,
at the table?
they just bought the valley. They're from northern Minnesota.
I was just thinking about it when you came over. I'm looking around going, this is just like any other town in the States that you go to. You want to go have a beer, you go have a beer. There's great music.
Yeah.
This just happens to be right on the border. I mean, you can't get any closer to the border than there. And it's no different. I mean, yeah, there are issues,
Yeah.
but I think for the most part, people just carry on, you know.
Yeah.
And,
So many people in Minnesota would be afraid to come to the border. Maybe you've
Absolutely.
heard it too. Have you heard people
Absolutely,
tell you
yes,
that you
yes.
should be afraid to come
Are
here?
you really going down the mission? Well, yeah. We've enjoyed it so far. Matter of fact, in 10 days, we bought a house here. So we're going to be here 7 months, and in northern Minnesota 5 months.
And all this stuff about worry about the border, all the stuff you hear, that didn't cause you to wait?
No.
Like you decided to do it now?
No, yeah, time was right for us to sell.
I'm heartbroken every time. I mean, the river has been the life force of the Rio Grande,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been shared by both sides, and you negotiate the border. Then a wall comes up, and it just says something else. What do you think?
There's got to be a better way. I don't know what it is. I guess, I may be gone before that's found.
Isn't that sad?
Yeah.
This is what makes me mad. This area has been characterized and discussed as a absolute war zone. To the point that I thought coming here we were going to see some real militarization and need for border response. This family's having picnics under a Coca-Cola banner.
You say Mexico border, everybody automatically thinks the word. Yes. You use Mexico, everybody thinks the whole country's cartel. It's a stereotype that there's everybody in Mexico is crook.
Yes.
And that's all they think. So they're just like amazed when someone go down there and realize that there's normal areas and communities and they'll call for the boat ride. Are we gonna get shot at? I said, well, if we did, I wouldn't be out there. Yeah, I'm taking you out there to get shot at. It's a real tour, man.
We've ridden the border. We started in Tijuana and rode all the way here on our bicycles, so we've been stopping these towns. And people just over and over keep saying, I wish people in the rest of the country knew what it's really like here. And there's all this slander about what's going on.
Of course, because depending on who you're going to listen on the news, they're going to push their agenda or how it's not the old days where you just reported the news and let people decide what they want to decide. And those days are long gone. We laugh all the time, like when they say something. A firecracker go off over there and it's a shootout, shooting to the U.S. This is what you get reported. So it's just kind of comical when you hear some of the reporting that goes on.
Come in and see what churches and because when you start saying we're talking about immigration and church, like the fundraising weekend around the crisis.
I don't think those people would be staying there if they were getting shot at every day, would they?
We think that old riverboat captain really had something right. Okay, trivia question for you. What % of Americans say that immigrants are invading our country and replacing our cultural and ethnic backgrounds? Is that answer 15%, 31%, 42%, or 57%? You can write an answer down. You get to hold your little card up in a minute. And the answer is 31%. How many people got 31%? Oh, that's even better. Yeah, it's because you probably did the math, from the last one and did 66%. All right, but it's not 31% of everyone, right? Like a lot of opinions, it depends on what your social context is. It turns out that 59% of white evangelical Protestants believe that, a much higher percentage in the country as a whole. So we don't only have to move public opinion in all places, we have to do it in some places. In addition to that, 57% of self-proclaimed Republicans feel that way. There's a different story being told to different people on different sides of the political spectrum. So that's one of the things that we want to do. Part of the reason that we're going to identify or create the documentary the way that we are is to identify with those audiences to help those people connect to it. This is it's meant to be a communication tool, right? That's what we're doing in all this work. And then you'll see. Oh, by the way, those who live in southern border states are less likely to agree with it. Only 25% of the people who live in the states that border the border feel that way. It's really a problem in the other places in the country. So that's why we were in Pittsburgh, and why we're in Ohio and Michigan and Indiana and Wisconsin and Minnesota, because these are the places where we can move this public opinion. And look, it's not just politicians on the Republican side. I spent a lot of time talking to Democratic candidates and Democratic elected officials. They don't want to talk about the border. They feel like it doesn't work for them. It's a Republican talking point. They won't engage in it. So there's a lot of information across all of our systems that has to go on when we do this kind of work. You're going to meet Dora Rodriguez here in a minute. Those of you that were in the service upstairs saw Dora before. You're going to hear a little bit more of her story. And we met Dora along the ride, and her story is just tremendous. So after you see it, then you're going to hear from Dora.
Solo métalo un ratito en el agua, ¿ok? Que Dios le bendiga, hijo. Por lo menos vino aquí para que nosotros le demos una manita, oye. Lo siento mucho, de verdad.
6 días en el desierto.
Qué horrible, hijo, por Dios, qué horrible.
3 días estuve en la línea esperando a entrar. Y ahí la comida se estaba terminando, por eso se me agotó todo. Suero, Gatorade.
Lo siento.
Ya el agua ya no.
Que vamos a dejar que se seque un poquito, ¿ok? Ay, perdón.
No, es que mis rodillas.
So he's hurting because he was with friends, but his 3 friends were able to walk with no problem, but he got his feet horrible. And I'll show you why, because the shoes that the smugglers give these people are horrible. This is how cheap they are, and every single pair of shoes that they get from the smugglers causes those blisters. So part of his story is very tragic, and it's very common that they get hurt and the group leave them behind because they want to go, they're going to do their journey, but the person who stay behind is when they risk their life to die. And this is what high school kids are doing, all the way in
Providence, Rhode Island.
Yes, beautiful. So I mean, I'm so thankful. And they write these beautiful notes, and they put $20 for them so they can have some money for their journey. ¿Usted la leyó, la notita que le hizo la niña? ¿La leyó? La notita. Una niñita de 14 años escribió eso.
Querido amigo, hola. Mi nombre es Katy. Soy estudiante en los Estados Unidos y tengo 14 años. Entiendo que tu vida.
Lo siento mucho. Muy linda. Que tu vida vale mucho, ¿verdad? Y la vida después puede incluir desafíos y luchas, dice. Encuentra salud y felicidad y éxito. Espero que tu viaje sea seguro por ayudar e incluido una donación para que en cualquiera de tus necesidades te deseo suerte. Con amor, Katy. Una niña de 14 años. Okay? This is beautiful. This is what these kids did. It's beautiful. Usted entró aquí por Sázabe, ¿verdad? ¿O entró por altar?
Por altar. Todos esos son muertos.
Todos. Todos, todos. Todo lo que usted ve rojo son todos los muertos que hemos encontrado desde el año entre 1999 hasta ahora. Hemos encontrado 3.862 muertos en estos desiertos. ¿Sí?
Okay, gracias.
Dios me lo bendiga, hermano.
Usted igual.
Guatemala.
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 Él es mi hijo.
Thank you so much. This is only one story from so many in our borders, and we see them every single day. This is a special night for us because it's our last night. And thank you so much for being in here. Thank you for being present with us. Before I start, I would like to ask if you can join me for a moment of silence, for a moment of remembering, for a moment of just thinking for our brothers and sisters who have died trying to find a better life, trying to flee violence, for our brothers and sisters in Ukraine, and for everyone that needs our doors to open. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So many people ask me why I do this and what I gain from this and what I'm fighting for. And how I share, our lives take us in different paths so many times. Sometimes it's a tragedy in your life. Sometimes it's something that was so dramatic, so harsh. Well, when I was 19, as I tell in the church, I fled the civil war in my country. That was a war that killed 75,000 plus people, and also killed our Bishop Romero, who's now a saint. And I had just finished high school. And I was ready to go to the university and become a social worker and continue to, my life, my career, my dreams. My mother pretty much was a single mom and raised us, and it was poverty. And I've been telling my stories over and over to the crew. And first of all, I do want to say thank you so much, Doug, and every single one of you in this group, because they are doing an amazing, amazing, amazing work. Or applause to them, please. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are so lucky. So I am so honored, really, so honored to be part of your team. And he's been my boss for 10 days, I told him, but now I'm going to be his boss. Because now he's not done. This is the beginning. So, my story is very tragic, and it was very hard when I decided to leave my country. And like I said, you just leave with a backpack with everything in there, and you leave everything behind. My mother could not leave with my brothers and my sister because, financially we could not do that. We had to hire a smuggler because even though that war was going on and it was financed by the United States, we were not welcome. And we're talking about 41 years ago. So the story repeats. And to make a long story short, it was 45 of us in the bus, all the way from the southern border. The tragedy does not start right on the southern border and the north side. It starts all the way when you leave your country. It's a journey. So we came in the bus, 45 of us, and when we got in July 1980 to the town of Sonora, very close to the Organ Pine Monument. It's a beautiful, beautiful desert, beautiful, but it's very deadly if you don't know where you're going to. So the story repeats with organized crime. It was the same and it's worse now because they are more sophisticated now and they're more expensive now for our people. So we came to the border. We were told that we needed a gallon of water, and within an hour, we were going to be in the United States, and then a plane was going to take us to California. So a lot of my brothers and sisters, they were having fun the night before. Some of them got drunk, and they were hangover. So that was no fun for them. They had a lot of headaches. It was in July of 1980 when the temperature was 117 high, even at night. So we had the smuggler, they guide us it was no wall at that time, it was just a barbed wire. We jumped, we were in the United States, and we start walking in that beautiful dark desert in a long line. 26 of us. In the group was 3 sisters. They marked my life forever. They were only 12, 14, and 16. And their mother had trusted the smugglers to bring these girls to her to California. They didn't make it. And it was a pregnant woman. So at the end of 6 days, that we were lost in the desert with no water. You don't care about food at that time. And when pee is not enough anymore, because you can't produce any more liquid with you, you look for shaving lotion, anything you have around you to survive. When we were rescued, I was around 13 people that died around me. And it was not my time. But I'm sorry, that is very tragic picture. But it's okay. It's okay. Life take you and you build up. And I thank this beautiful country for giving me the opportunity to become who I am. I never thought I was going to be doing this, standing in front of people, telling my story of resiliency, a story of faith, a story that I tell you, none of the people I meet on my area and our borders are these poor people. They're strong. They have faith. They believe. And they believe in our country. That's why they come. Because they believe that we are going to open arms and give them the opportunity and keep them safe. So it is very important for us to remember and continue to do the beautiful work you're all doing. I really appreciate and honor that. And I do this work on our borders, you know, in honor of my brothers and sisters that could not make it. I honor their life, I honor their story, because very often I think of the sisters and every woman there was in my group and young men, how their life would have been if we would not have to cross the desert in order to find safety. And I tell you, I never got asylum, even with the story, the tragic that we went. We went to jail instead, after 7 days in the hospital recuperating. So asylum is not easy to get. It's a long, long process. And so the fight continues. I am so honored to be in the life of the people I see every day in our borders. I'm humble, and I pray that I stay humble for them. Who knows anything about Title 42 in this room? Title 42 is a CDC provision, a law, during pandemics. And it was implemented in the 1940s, or when we had the flu disease. Well, the last president thought this is perfect to take our people that is coming to our borders in large numbers and causing all this problem and detain them and send them back. We are in 2 years already practicing that law, which is against the law. It's totally wrong. It's inhumane. It's killing people. And then in January 2019, well, before the Title 42, he had, or after he was the president, Judge Sessions, and all of them, decided to take kids away from their mothers. Zero tolerance at the border. It created so much pain. They were still trying to reunite families. There's 1,500 kids still in the United States in foster homes, and their parents are in different countries, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, waiting for their parents to be reunited. Because the law was created in the middle of the night in a tweet, and no one said nothing about it. And that's not okay. Then the remaining Mexico order, he got in cahoots with the Mexican government to accept people that was waiting for asylum. There has a legit case. There has a real case of asylum. And he said, yes, we're gonna listen to your case, but you got to go back to Mexico and wait for 6 months to a year or more to talk to a judge. And that's still in place. So those are a lot of policies that really has hurt our asylum system. So let's continue to advocate. Let's continue to talk about. And if you know somebody and somebody knows somebody, please share what you heard tonight, because this is not over yet. We're still in that need every day. So the center that I am present every day, if possible, came out from Title 42, because in that remote town of Sassafras, Sonora, which is an hour and a half from Tucson, Arizona, is very, very remote. It doesn't have services for our people when they are sent back, when they are caught crossing without documents, and they are sent back to that town with no services, with no transportation, no shelters, no hospital. So you see a need, you act on it. And we did. We, with the community of that small town, created this sanctuary for our people. That now they have a place to get that dignity back. Because they come to our shelter with no bells, no shoelaces, and their belongings in trash bags. That's how Border Patrol sent it to us. and they're holding their pants, getting to our shelter. The man that you saw in the video, he was already nice and clean, but that's not how he came to us. He had already showered in that place. So we are continue to do this work. I am so thankful to be and honored to be around you because I know you are a community of service and love and acceptance. Let's continue that. Let's not get discouraged because not everybody agree with what we do. And that's okay. We can sit down and have a conversation. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me around. If you want to hear a little bit more of my story, I think you guys have it in your videos. But it's a story of faith and courage. So let's keep on. Thank you.
Thank you, Dora. Dora will tell you when you ask her that she doesn't get paid for the work she does. They run that whole center on $2,500 a month. They use an Amazon wish list to fill those backpacks. Raises an important question. By the way, that was a picture of Dora being saved there. Since the creation of the Department of Homeland Security in 2003, and the reason we start the dating there is because after September 11th, Border Patrol was relocated in the federal government into Homeland Security, which makes it part of the military. It also means that Border Patrol under Homeland Security does not have to play by the rules of other law enforcement. If you try to do a release of information request, they don't have to give it to you. They don't report to anyone outside of the military. It's a real issue. But so since then, 2003, how much has our federal government spent on the agencies that carry out immigration enforcement? $700 million, $1 billion, $10 billion, $333 billion. Go ahead and jot a number down. And the answer is 333 billion. You got it right? Hold that card up if you got it right. $333 billion. $10 million a mile for border wall. When we were riding through Del Rio, we tried to get a hotel. Went to the Hampton Inn, which we like to stay at on our little journeys because they give you a free breakfast, including a waffle maker. And the cost for the hotel was $389. And I said to the person on the phone, why is it $389? And she said, oh, it's been that way for a year and a half. We're exclusively full of Border Patrol agents. There's an entire industry that's funding this Border Patrol, these actions on the border. It's not only about the money, but very often it's about the money. So you're going to see these stories. You heard the one of Dora. You're going to hear it of Alma. You're going to see Sister Lika. These are the women. This is what they're up against, this level of spending. We were in Del Rio, where we called for that hotel, and Shelley and I were there, and we watched the Border Patrol come and drop off migrants who had been allowed into the United States as asylum seekers. By the way, the difference between an asylum seeker and a refugee is that you're a refugee if your group has received permission to be in the United States before you get to the United States. So we've declared a refugee status for people in Afghanistan, a refugee status for people in Ukraine. They've been declared as refugees. If you're not in a group that's been declared as refugees, you have to get to the U.S. soil and ask for asylum. So that's the difference between an asylum seeker and a refugee. So we'll take in some refugees, but don't always take in asylum seekers. These are kind of little factoids that become really important in people's stories. Alma's going to tell you a bit about that. But anyway, the Border Patrol dropped off people for this small little group called the Valverde, which is the name of their county, Valverde Humanitarian Coalition, who self-fund to take care of the asylum seekers once the Border Patrol drops them off. They spend a lot of money capturing them, a lot of money processing. Then they drop them off, and then the Valverde Humanitarian effort helps them over at a gas station where they wait to get on a bus to go to Houston or to San Antonio or elsewhere. And all of that funded by Amazon wish lists. People aren't paid, and they're doing it all themselves. They process 16,000 people with almost no money. The federal government creates a crisis that sits on the back of our small nonprofits, almost all run by women, on the southern border, and it's just wrong. They just need to pay for the problem that they're creating. So there's some really clear solutions of what to do with that $333 billion. All right, out of the analytics for a moment and back into the stories. This is Sister Lika. She's also just south of Tucson in a town called Nogales, Mexico. Part of the reason we want you to see these videos at this point is because some of you might think you want to go there to see Dora, to see Alma, to see Sister Lika. They're ready for you. So if you want to go, we'll help you meet them and help you get there. So here's Sister Lika.
El centro Casa de la Misericordia y de todas las naciones, lo que nos dedicamos es ayudar a las personas con mayor vulnerabilidad en su vida. En este caso, en este momento es como un albergue, es un refugio para migrantes que están solicitando asilo a los Estados Unidos. La gente que está aquí en su mayoría son mexicanos, muchos vienen de Centroamérica, incluso de Sudamérica, Venezuela, Colombia, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, que van llegando hasta llegar a esos Nogales. La gente que está aquí no está porque quiere. Es gente que ha sufrido o su vida corre peligro y no pueden estar en sus lugares de origen y por eso tienen que dejar sus pueblos, sus casas para buscar una serenidad, una paz que no tienen en sus tierras. Esta mariposa representa la migración, the migrants.
Es la monarca, ¿no?
La monarca. Y para nosotros es como símbolo de la migración. Y al fondo voy a poner cometas. Un niño allá de aquel lado. Un niño con kite.
The United States law is that the only way you can seek asylum is on U.S. soil. You can't ask for asylum in the United States, even if you qualified for it, until you get to the United States and get on U.S. soil.
It's not just a border issue, it's a United States issue. And we're trying to ask the question, who's included in the we the people?
So the reason migrants are coming to the border and then turning themselves over to the Border Patrol is to ask for asylum.
We're a group of pastors that are organizing this and traveling the country. We really want faith voters to care about these issues. We know that a lot of faith voters think one way on Sunday when they're at church and then act another way on Tuesday when they walk into the voting booth.
The We the People ride started in San Diego, California, and now these bikers are going to head on over to check out the migrant situation on the other side before they continue along their journey to Jacksonville, Florida.
I keep thinking about all the times that we have crossed into Mexico, how easily we can enter into Mexico, that the Mexican government just welcomes people like us to come in. And yet, in the United States, we put up razor wire and walls and armed guards and U.S. Army to keep people from coming in. That disparity just haunts me every day that we ride along this border.
This doesn't feel as much like a shelter as it does a big family. Can you talk a little bit about how you create a sense of community?
Su situación permanece en un estado de familia. De hecho, nosotros recibimos familias completas, papá, mamá, hijos, mujeres solas con hijos o mujeres solas, que son las más vulnerables o menos espacios tienen donde llegar. Y crear esta comunidad ha sido como una respuesta a la necesidad, ponernos en los pies del migrante, ponernos en los pies de ellos y crear a través de la experiencia con el trabajo de las personas, esta posibilidad de vivir en familia.
The word that keeps coming back to me on this ride is the word slander. And partly because in the Christian narrative, that's such an important word, to not slander people, that you don't speak of people in ways that are untrue and that are slanderous. And yet we slander these people who are trying to come to this country by creating all these narratives. The other story we should be telling is that these are survivors, these are heroes to their own family. These little girls and little boys who look up to their moms and dads who are making their way across other countries to get to safety. Those children are seeing their parents as heroes of their family and heroes of their faith. And we act as if they're the problem.
That's beautiful. I got to spend some time with Sister Lika, and I got to make music with some of those kids. And it was beautiful to see just the power of music and how it unites us. And it was beautiful to see their joy and resilience after just an incredibly grueling journey. And the thing is, these kids shouldn't have to be resilient. They should be met with open doors and open arms when they get to what we call the greatest country that the world has ever seen. We sell this myth, this idea of the American dream that once you get here, you can be anything. You can come with pennies in your pocket and you can achieve your dreams. You can become anything. But these families, these kids, they make this journey. They risk their lives, and they do the right thing. They present themselves at the border and apply for asylum legally. This is their legal right. They do all the right things, and we close the door and we send them back. And I've just been deeply troubled by the response of the American church to this crisis, specifically the white evangelical church. If you were with us upstairs in the church service, then you heard this song. You get to sit through it again. Sorry. But it's new to the people online. And I think we have an opportunity to, like we like to say around here, speak up and stand up and wake up. When we know better, we can do better. And we've heard a lot of information. And I know it's heavy and it's hard, but I think together we can do something. So thank you. I grew up in your churches, Sunday morning and evening service, melting tears at the foot of the rugged cross. Taught me every life is sacred, feed the hungry and clothe the naked. I learned from you the highest law is love. And I believed you when you said I should trust the words in red to guide my steps through a wicked world. I assumed you'd do the same, so imagine my dismay when I watched you lead the sheep straight to the wolves. You said to love the lost, I'm loving you now. You said to speak the truth, I'm calling you out. Why don't you live the words that you put in my mouth? May love overcome and justice roll down. Oh, they started putting kids in cages, ripping mothers from their babies, and I look to you to speak on their behalf. Oh, but all I heard was silence, or worse, you justified it, singing glory, hallelujah, raise the flag. Well, your fear turned to hatred, but you baptized it with language torn from the pages of the good book. You weaponized religion, and you wonder why I'm leaving to find Jesus on the wrong side of your walls. You said to love the lost, well, I'm loving you now. You said to speak the truth, that's why I'm calling you out. Why don't you live the words that you put in my mouth? May love overcome and justice roll down. Come home, come home. You're better than this. Oh, you taught me better than this. Come home, come home. You're better than this. Oh, you taught me better than this. Come home. Come home, oh. Maybe I was too naive, or I just didn't want to see that there's always been a little poison in the well. 'Cause we sit on stolen land, a nation built by stolen hands, and we use the Bible to justify it all. Yeah, from slavery and segregation to mass deportations. This is who we are, but not who we have to be. But there's a lot of work to do to pull out the evil by the roots. But repentance has to come before there's peace. You said to love the lost, I'm trying to love you now. You said to speak the truth, that's why I'm calling you out. Why don't you live the words that you put in overcome, and justice roll down. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for having us. Thank you to Dora, to Alma. It's been such an honor to travel with them and to bear witness to their work, and I'm just so grateful to all of you. So, thank you.
We want to meet the people who are living on both sides of the border.
Y queremos conocer a la gente que vive en los dos lados de la frontera.
And we want to tell the stories of the impact of the policy from the United States.
Los activistas continuarán su viaje a través de la frontera para seguir presionando al gobierno por un cambio en la política migratoria. Las actuales políticas de inmigración de los Estados Unidos están obsoletas y son crueles. En el campamento convivieron con niños y adultos que viven aquí en condiciones inhumanas de hacinamiento y enfermedad.
Maria, thank you. Thank you for doing this.
Gracias por hacer esto.
Maria, will you tell us your name and where you're from?
Dinos tu nombre y de dónde eres.
Buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es María. Yo vivo allá en Aldea Timactés, San Matías de Tambo, municipio de... Salí de mi país porque peligro para mí, peligro para mi hijo, y violencias, drogas, violaciones no hay comidas, secuestradores para mis niños. Mi esposo hace años me dejó, se abandonó, él casó con otra mujer y se abandonó con mis hijos, por eso yo no quiero abandonar mis hijos, yo quiero mantener mis hijos.
¿Cuántos niños tienes?
2.
I have 2 children.
Un varón y una hembra.
One boy and one girl.
How old are they?
¿Cuántos años tiene?
Es mi hijo, trae 11 años.
One is 11.
Mi niña dejó 9 años.
And my girl that is back in Guatemala is 9 years old.
So why is your daughter back in Guatemala?
¿Por qué dejaste a tu niña en Guatemala?
Porque no hay dinero, ya no alcanza mi dinero cuando salí. Por ahora se perdió unos 34,000 quetzales. Porque cuando me trae mis 2 hijos, muchos dineros, sí es difícil. Me quedo triste. Cuando me dejó mi niña allá en Guatemala, estoy triste. Yo quiero luchar por mis niños. Yo no quiero perder mi vida, mis hijos. Allá no hay luz, no hay agua potable, no hay nada. Yo me trabajé día a día. Yo me salí como a las 6 de la mañana. Me llegó hasta las 4 de la tarde. Apenas me gané unos 30 quetzales. No hay dinero, no hay comida. Estoy triste. Ya va 11 años, quedó con mis hijos. Ay, estoy luchando por eso. Yo quiero luchar por mi vida, mis hijos. Yo no quiero.
I wanna keep fighting for the sake of my children.
Yo estoy miedo por aquí. No hay nadie me ayuda, pero gracias.
No, para servirte.
Sí.
When nobody was helping us, nobody looked at us. We are very thankful God sent us because everybody ignores us.
This is your son?
¿Es tu hijo?
Sí, es mi hijo.
Pascal, thank you for sharing with us.
Gracias por ayudarnos.
Gracias. Thank you for helping us.
Te agradezco.
Yo abrazaba a mi niño, rápido salgan allí porque ya varias gentes vamos a cruzar, digo. Y luego salí, bajó del cima de eso, iba corriendo con mi niño porque son peligros también, ahí llegan los más feos también.
Nosotros solo, ellos dicen pues para los coyotes, dicen que cuando nos traen, dicen que nos dan comida, nos dan un autobús para llevarse, pero no era así.
To God of all breath, we ask for love and care and kindness and goodness to these sweet mothers, sons that we've met today. Changed policy for the United States, safety in that plaza, and to put it in the words of Jesus, may your kingdom come and your will be done on earth as it is in heaven, because this is not that. So we will say an amen, but it is a paused and broken amen, because this work is unfinished. Amen.
Very touching, right? That's our reality every week. Thank you. We are so honored. We are so blessed that you guys are here. You know, it's our last night. We ended up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, because the Lord has orchestrated our schedule like that. And we are so thankful for Doug and the team and Dan and each of you that are here. And tonight is very special for me because one of my prayer partners that has been praying for me for years and who has sponsored our work at the borderlands is here, my friend Melissa. And she brought a whole crew of amazing women from here, from the Twin Cities. And without knowing me, we connected through Facebook. And we connected because of our love for the Holy Lamb, for Bethlehem. And as if you were upstairs, we were my family and I, my boys and I, were planning to go back to the Middle East and serve among Syrian refugees. And we were on a plan, right? We planned A, B, and C. I was trained in northern Wisconsin, and my missionary leaders were from Minnesota. So you plan A, B, and C, and that's the way it is, and you're driven, right? So my boys have Arabic names. We were ready to go. Things changed. We suffered a horrible tragedy, and so my boys and I were at the border, and I was waiting for my immigration process. I'm a recent immigrant. I'm from northern Mexico. And so meanwhile, I was waiting. As I don't know if you know that, but once you get approved for your work permit, you have to wait a long time for your permanent residency. And after your permanent residency, you have to wait for 5 years in order to receive your citizenship. And so I was praying and said, "The Lord, what do you want me to do?" Well, I'm at the border and I should serve here. And I was looking for an organization or a ministry that could give me the opportunity to do what you saw us doing, that Dora and I do on the borderlands. She works in Arizona border, I work on the Texas border, and I couldn't find anything exactly like that. And I would ask an organization, they would say, "Well, you can go and make sandwiches." And we have what you guys call it winter Texans, snowbirds, right? You call it that. Well, we have a lot of winter Texans down there. You saw it on the videos that they were played here. And it's like, "Well, I don't want to make sandwiches. I don't want to do that. I want to pray for people. I want to be there for people." And our ministry is a grassroots, emerging 501c3 faith-based nonprofit that creates a ministry of presence. What Dora is doing, we are there with them face to face. We sit down with them, we pray with them, we give them comfort. We are equally sitting down with them. And so I couldn't find anything, so we started something. And I remember I put my backpack on, and I had 1 tank of gas that week, and we went to Matamoros, and there was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people in tents. And I've been in other borders. I've been on the Nepali border in North India. I have been in the Slovak border, in the border with Ukraine. Hearing the Slovak Border Patrol telling me how in the spring they will find bodies that are defrosting. So they pick up the remains of people fleeing Ukraine in order to go to the European nations. And then I will meet with the North India and with a Mexican seminary team, and they would say, "Well, yeah, the Nepali girls are trafficked, so we're trying to help at the border, on the North India border with Nepal, see what we can do." And so I've been crossing borders for a long time. But it has been I'm a slow learner, I suppose, learning that God is a God of justice. And it seems to me that God is choosing women with the message of the resurrection. And the most dangerous places on earth, the women are at the front lines, and it seems that since the beginning, Jesus has known better, and he has entrusted us with the message of the resurrection of the risen Christ, because we can do the job. And it's not because of us. It's not because of gender equality and all of that, even though we're cool. But, it's not just that. It's because we are saying, like for me, what do I do this? And I do this because I fall in love with Jesus. And I want to serve him every day of my life faithfully. I want to see Jesus face to face, and I want to say, "I did the job you entrusted me with. And I'm honored that I'm doing this." And we have found, because we live at the border, so we don't always find friendly people that can say, "Great job. I'm glad that you're doing this." Sometimes we get off or we share in a Bible study and they said, "What are you helping those illegals? What are you doing? How dare you?" Or, "How do you dare endanger your children by taking them across the border and bring donations?" And but on the other hand, as an American society, we say, a soldier is going to Iraq, Afghanistan. "Oh, thank you for your service. I'm glad you're going there, And thank you for your service. We have Memorial Day, we have Labor Day, and I don't know, those holidays that Americans celebrate, right? And I'm glad we honor their service. But we don't tell missionaries to go to Ukraine right now with their children. Thank you for your work. I'm glad you're going there. We would say, what are you thinking? Right? I mean, it's just, it's what I've seen. So it's what I'm told. What are you doing going across the international bridge with your children, with donations, hundreds of pounds of donations, carrying across to give to people? Why do we do that? Because we're in love with Jesus. And because he's asking us to practice justice, to love mercy. And so that's why we're doing that. And so I am on the borderland. My region is McAllen, Texas. I'm literally by the river. You saw the river, right? You saw the boats and you saw our pictures. I serve in Reynosa, which is level 4, danger for from Homeland Security. And a lot of people think that missionaries are these ultra major spiritual people out there with our halo. Do you see my halo over here? Out there and we're super spiritual. Well, yeah, sort of. We're just saying, okay, I'm going to risk my life. And then, not order that, I need to fundraise. So hopefully I won't get killed next week. And, so you need to help me, help these people. And we have to raise our own salary. Isn't that just goofy? It shouldn't be like that, but it is like that. Like, we depend on donations, we depend on volunteers. And that's why for me, it is so important that you guys are here so you can hear it from us who live at the border, who are serving at a border, who are risking our lives for the sake of doing the right thing. What are we doing this? Because it's the right thing to do. And there's a verse in Isaiah that we are adopting. This book is really helping me. On Love and Mercy is a social justice devotional. Stephen Matson is from here. Hopefully I can meet him tomorrow. He sent me this. And one of the verses that I have adopted is, learn to do good, seek justice. I really appreciate the first line, learn to do good, because it doesn't come naturally. We have to learn to do the right thing. And many times it's not fun. Many times it's not cool. Many times, we would say, like a local church in McAllen said, we just sent $20,000 to refugees in Ukraine. And I'm thinking, praise God, we're doing that. We have several thousand just across the international bridge that we could help. And it'll be great if we can do that. And also seek justice, correct oppression. Correct oppression. We have to correct it. We cannot just turn to the other side and ignore it. We have to correct it. Bring justice to the fatherless. Plead the widow's cause. And many times there's not a pathway to do the right thing. We have to create it. We have to make an effort to do and to choose justice and to choose mercy. In Micah 6:8, he says, you know what the Lord has required of you, to love justice, to practice mercy, to do and these are simple things. If every follower of Jesus would do the right thing, our world will be much better. And that is so important that we can. So we are here inviting you as people of faith to help us do the right thing with your prayers, with your support, with your donations. I'm so glad to hear about helping Afghan refugees. Praise God for what you're doing for the Ukrainian refugee community. And let's continue to do that, but let's remember the southern border. For me, it is amazing to see the reaction. Afghan refugees, we need to help them, we need to support them. They helped us, with the situation in Afghanistan, so we need to bring them over here. The Ukrainians, well, the Russian guy is a bad guy, so we need to help them come over here. But when we talk about brown refugees from at the southern borders, like secure the border, build the walls, send the troopers. I live at the border. I can assure you it is very well guarded. We have over 1,000 state troopers only from Texas. We have National Guard from Texas, National Guards from South Dakota, National Guards from Florida, National Guards from other states that are sent because of the crisis that we have at the border. Well, and like Doug was mentioning to us, that it is safe to live at the border. I live on the American side, and we are not asking the American government or the of America to say, let's open the borders. I don't want MS-13 next door. I don't want cartel people next door. But we cannot treat women and children with the same harshness that we can treat convicted criminals. We cannot do that. And it is time that we can stop demonizing and stop creating a stigma on immigrants and people that want to flee for the sake of the lives of the children. And so we just want to invite you, please join us to make the United States better. Please join us in creating humane practices and how we treat people that cross our borders. And let's give an opportunity for life, practicing mercy, practicing love, and it will be, all of us will be a better people and a better nation for it. God bless you.
Hi, everyone. I know you're getting tired. Thanks for hanging with us. We're a little tired, too. It's our last night. I want to tell you about how I got here and what I'm doing about what I've experienced. I was a bike rider. I need to tell you about a day, August 3rd, 2019, when that was my heart, and that's why I'm here today. What happened that day was I was back to school shopping with my kids, my 4 kids in my minivan, and I got a breaking news event on my phone, and I looked down and I found out that in another state, not far from where I live in Northwest Arkansas, there had been a shooting at a Walmart where families had been back to school shopping. And as the details about that shooting became more clear, my heart was absolutely shattered. We found out that shooter had been motivated by so much fear and hate of that last administration's rhetoric. He had driven 10 hours across the state of Texas to get to El Paso. He had, before he left, laid out his weapons and spelled out TRUMP with those guns, posted that on social media. And then when he got to that store, he chose to pass over white people in the store so that he could kill more brown people. And that's what got me, because if we had been in El Paso instead of Arkansas that day, he would have passed over me and my husband, my 2 oldest kids, and our youngest. And he would have chosen, without knowing anything about her, to kill my daughter, my Charlie, my Latina, who is here tonight. My husband drove up and surprised us. I realized then that my whiteness could not protect my daughter from the way that our country was going. It was not the land of the free for her. And I needed to do something, and I didn't know what I was going to do. So right around that time, Vote Common Good organized a border experience for faith leaders, and I was able to go to that. I got on a plane and flew to El Paso. I didn't have any idea what I was going to do. I just knew I needed to go. And when I got there, we saw that that memorial where the people were still gathering their remembrances at the Walmart, the shooting, the vigil, and we met with those people and listened to their hearts and their songs. And then we went to see that hideous border wall, which is just the ugliest piece of garbage metal I've ever seen in my life. And in such strong contrast to just like weeks before I had taken my son to school in New York City, and I wanted to see the Statue of Liberty. I'd never seen it before. I wanted to go because my great-grandma, when she was 16, came over by herself on a boat and passed through, leaving the country of Ukraine behind to start a new life. And so I held those 2 images in split focus in my mind, that Lady Liberty and this ugly wall. And then we were able to go to a in-district congressional hearing. And I was able to hear from the people who live right there in El Paso about their experiences and what it feels like to have a border pass through what is essentially their families. Because they live on both sides of that wall, and they have for hundreds of years. And it is our stupid policies that are separating them and creating this fear and danger for them. In fact, I found out at that time that Border Patrol It is not under the Constitution like you and I. Border Patrol shot an 8-year-old girl across the Rio Grande River, and there will be no justice for that child because of our policies. And so I went back to my room that night, and I had a little argument with the Lord. That's not my tradition, but I was a little wound up, and I lay there in the dark in this desert. And there's a way that the wind blows in the desert. There's a sound that is holy. And I said, God, nobody's going to listen to me. I'm just some lady. I'm not rich. I'm not an Instagram influencer. I'm not special. My own family in rural Pennsylvania is not going to listen to anything I have to say. I'm not going to be able to convince anybody. What do you want me to do? What could I possibly say? Nobody's going to listen to me. And God, clear as day, and I know it's God because her voice is very succinct, unlike mine, said, you haven't said anything yet. And so I started talking. I also started making because, you see, I'm a broken China mosaic artist, and I'm used to making things out of broken things. We have a broken immigration system. We are broken people. I am familiar with working with flawed things. And I had this vision for a piece that I wanted to make, a wall, in fact, of my own, a version of a wall. And so I started making. I didn't know what was going to happen with it or where it was going to go, but I had the vision for it. Well, a couple of years passed, and a performance artist that many of us know and love decided to put on a bit of a show and ride these bikes across the country. And I'm an artist. I'm not an athlete, I assure you. But I decided I was going to go. I was going to go on that bike ride. And so I went back to Texas, and I rode 250 miles in Texas. And I saw those mothers in that restaurant, and I heard their stories, and I do not speak Spanish, but I could hear their heart. Because they're moms just like me, right? They just want to protect their kids. They just want what's best for them. So then I went home, and I worked on the mosaic a little bit more. And I went back, and I rode in Florida, across the state of Florida, 250 miles. So I rode 500 miles. Yeah, the thing that really taught me is what it feels like to be really hot and tired and to wonder where I'm going to lay my head and to hold that experience in my body and to remember it and think of them because they don't have Tim with peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to meet them. And I'll tell you the most amazing time for me on the whole trip was the day after we had put our toes in the ocean in St. Augustine. I was able to sit down at a hotel breakfast with 3 other women, these sisters, mi hermanas. These holy women, these mighty women of God. But we were just 4 women sitting at breakfast, shooting off our mouths, telling stories, talking about just our lives. And what I found out is that each of these women had tried to do the right thing, make all the good choices, be wise, follow the rules, whatever. And every one of them had had the rug pulled out from underneath them. They had faced injustice from the people, the churches, their faith communities that should have supported them. Partners had failed them, disappointed them, abused them. Their lives had not gone the way they had hoped. In fact, I asked Maria, who is with the Samaritans, who takes water into the desert and leaves it there for the people that are traveling. And I said, Maria, what was your plan going to Arizona? Maria looked at me and was like, I didn't have a plan. I had a verse that kept coming up in my journal about giving cups of water to people. And that's how I found myself there. I was just I was so struck by them, and I was reminded of a woman in the biblical story who twice found herself in the desert. The holy, beautiful, dangerous, deadly desert. Once she was pregnant. Another time she laid her child under a bush and walked away because she could not stand the thought of watching her child die. She was the wrong color. She was stuck in a system that was not for her. She had been trafficked. She had been used sexually. She had been enslaved. Her life was practically invisible. And yet, God came to her twice. And her name is Hagar. In Hebrew, her name means slave. Our Islamic friends know her as a beautiful nurturer. And Hagar does something that, as far as I know, nobody else does. Hagar names God. Usually God does the naming. God says, you're going to be this, you're going to be this, you're going to be this. Hagar is the one who does the naming. And Hagar names God the God who sees. The God who sees. You see, our job as an artist is to make people see things that they might not see otherwise. I built a wall. It is this size. It's 14 feet long. It is 7 panels, like 7 days in the week. I don't normally make my mosaics by dropping a plate from 10 feet because we can't make beauty out of violence. I wanted to show that when those pieces fall, and I mosaicked around them exactly where they fell, with plain white, much like we chalk around a body that has fallen, that it's not right. It's not right. I made it like a map because it's made out of souvenir plates of the United States. So you can see Texas and Arkansas where I live and, Indiana and a lot of the places that we've been on this trip because as a country we are broken, right? You feel that. I know you do. My job is to show you things, show you what has changed inside of me, to show you what is possible. Because in some ways we are very broken, but in some ways we can come together and we can make something beautiful. I know that you are all very caring people. You're here and you've sat through this whole talk, so I know you have great big hearts. I know that you are feeling very shattered from the last few years. But I hope that you can feel that there are so many ways that you can be a part. See, that's how we heal. We heal by taking action. We heal by participating. We heal by putting our arms together, linking our arms and moving into the injustice together. We don't want you to feel guilty or ashamed. We want you to feel part of this. We want you to be with us in this beautiful mosaic. I hope that when my piece gets to Washington, D.C. in the fall, in the museum where it's going, I hope that my piece, it's called Rend and Remember. I hope that it helps people understand that even with $333 billion, we cannot mend a mother's broken heart.
Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you for helping us all to see in the work that you do. My name is Nick Brock, and I am from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and it is good to be here with you. It is cold where I am from as well, so I feel right at home. Last year, the U.S. Border Patrol reported more than 1.6 million encounters with migrants along the U.S.-Mexico border. And of these encounters, Repeat border crossers accounted for a sizable proportion, 27%, or nearly 450,000, which resulted in overstating the grand total. My attention, however, was not fixated on this numerical data, but on a particular phrase describing it that said, encounters refer to events. Encounters with migrants refer to events. Simply put, according to definitions for the word event, encounters with migrants along the southwest border are places where something of importance happened. If that's the case, then how does our national consciousness interpret these more than 1.6 million encounters? I propose with a sonnet. In 1883, an American writer named Emma Lazarus embedded her radical imagination for hospitality and welcome into a poem called The New Colossus. At the time, Lazarus was writing amidst a national backdrop of economic depression, fueling anxiety, fear, and animosity towards those, quote, taking away jobs from white men, end quote, and disrupting so-called white racial purity. The year before, Congress passed the Chinese Exclusion Act, the first federal law excluding immigration to specific groups. Its intent was to stop Chinese immigrants from living and working along the West Coast. And the Supreme Court ruled on multiple occasions that expulsions and deportations can be determined by race and if it was undesirable or for any other reason. The overarching message was that where the status of immigrants is concerned, almost anything goes. So it did, and so it does. And yet, like a voice of one calling in the wilderness, Lazarus penned a sonnet that was to be emblazoned upon the pedestal on which the Statue of Liberty stands. With a daring and prophetic voice, Lady Liberty invites America to re-examine and reimagine her definition for where and how something of importance happens. Towering from 300 feet in the air, she asserts, not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land. Here, at our sea-washed sunset gate shall stand a mighty woman with a torch whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles. Her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. Keep ancient lands your storied pomp, cries she with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these to me, the homeless, tempest-tossed. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Friends, may we embody a vision of America that glows worldwide welcome 1.6 million times over. May we be a mother to the exiles seeking mercy, justice, and hope. And may we be compelled to light the doorstep to freedom along the US-Mexico border and say with unequivocal certitude, something of importance happened here. My name is Nick Brock. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Nick did that 2 nights ago off a sheet, and just last night did it for the first time by memory. So, Nick, thanks for that important moment. Thanks for being with us. One more bit of trivia. You can hear just 2 minutes, 3 minutes from Simon, and then we're going to go. It's a trivia question I didn't know should exist. The question is, of all the legal immigrants allowed in our country each year, what % can come from any one country? Did you know that there's a limit to how many immigrants can be from any one country based on the total number of immigration visas offered? I didn't know that. Is it 7% can come from any one country, 32% from any one country, 76, or am I making all that up? There's actually no limit. Write it on your little sheet of paper, and the answer is 7%. Meaning, because we offer 675,000 immigration visas a year total for new immigrants, only 47,000 can come from any one country. So when people say, why don't they come legally? For many, there is no legal pathway because it's already full. There's a quota system placed on immigration, and there's a quota system placed on the number of refugees and the number of asylum seekers. The fundamental question, why don't they come legally, is because we make a law where there is no legal pathway. I mean, I can't speak for all people trying to get in this country, but everyone that we met, they want to come legally. Many of them are coming to the U.S. border as asylum seekers. Many are seeking their own immigration, costing thousands of dollars from places they can't afford it. They would love to come legally. So we have to create a legal system by which people can come. Now look, the United States isn't the only country that has a broken immigration system, but it's also something we shouldn't settle for. We make our own laws. We live in a democracy. We and the people we vote for make our laws. Every one of these laws can change. So when someone says, I want to run for office, whether it's for the city council or for the district attorney of Hennepin County or for the president of the United States or the man we talked to last night, the senator of Wisconsin, when someone says, I want to represent the people of this country to make the laws, enforce the laws, or call for new laws, we like to hear from those people. That's what Simon Troutman is doing. He works on the city council of Richfield. He's a lawyer. I mean, he's all full of this stuff. I think he should be the next DA, the district attorney of Hennepin County. That's up for you to decide when it comes for your vote in November. But Simon, thanks for being here. Thanks for saying a word. And my man, thanks for dressing like a politician. Holy moly, all dressed up. And yeah, thank you.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm still coming from church. Thank you, everybody. And people ask, why are you running for Hennepin County Attorney? And I have to tell you this. I have to tell you because life is too precious and time is too short not to do everything you can right now to stand up, to raise your voice, and see the God who sees. You need to see your neighbor. Amen? We're in a church basement. Can we say amen? I love this so much. It says, we the people. We the people, and Doug, this amazing leader, the spiritual leader, says we need to reimagine who the we is. And in our faith tradition, the Bible says, somebody said, what do we need to do? And Jesus said, we need to love God. We need to love our neighbor. And a lawyer said he wanted to justify himself. And how did the lawyer justify himself? He said, well, who is my neighbor? We have a very crystal clear answer to who our neighbor is. If somebody is at the margins, if somebody has been put to the side, they are your neighbor. And if you consider that story, it wasn't just that you should be a good neighbor to them. It's that as Jesus told that story of the Good Samaritan, that Good Samaritan was a better neighbor than any religious person that saw that man that was in need. And what we have is an opportunity in our city. People are anxious about public safety. People feel unsafe in their own homes. There are 26,000 bullets that were shot in violence in this city, in the city of Minneapolis alone, and we are in the midst of a reckoning. And if we do not see the dignity and the honor of people we have put to the margins, we will make ourselves less safe, not more safe. And what we can do right now in the county attorney's office, people don't know this. Doug mentioned, he said the district attorney. The district attorney is responsible for criminal happenings. In the county attorney's office, we don't just have criminal happenings, but we have all the civil happenings. And what we do in the county attorney's office is that we can integrate both our criminal problems and criminal solutions with the civil justice and civil procedures and the procedural justice that are absolutely essential. We saw here over and over again policies that tear families apart, that tear our community apart, that make us less safe. I have built a law practice as a Puerto Rican man. As a Puerto Rican man, I can say this. There's just a quirk of colonialism that says, as a Latin community member, I get to be a U.S. citizen. My grandfather, Juan Cordova II, he was the senior ranking enlisted officer on the base in San Juan. He could not vote for the commander-in-chief because of the quirky distinctions. I love the distinction between refugees and asylum seekers because of those quirky, you're a great American, you were wounded, multiple Purple Hearts, you can't vote for the commander-in-chief because of a quirk of geography. We are here today to raise our voices, to stand up. What I was going to mention is what I've had the opportunity to do as a lawyer here in Minneapolis is primarily represent BIPOC, and that means Black and Indigenous and immigrant, not just individuals, but community members, community leaders, and business owners. And I'm here today to speak to you just for 30 seconds to talk about what an incredible privilege it is for us to have immigrants here in the Twin Cities. We do not understand the wealth that they bring. We do not understand the human resources, the human capital, how transformative it is. For every business I represent, people don't understand that there are usually dozens of individuals, oftentimes from other countries, who are sending their wealth, sending their treasure right here to us. And when you see a small business, it's not just that family, it's not just those community members that are investing, it's not just the jobs that are created, but it is the wealth and the opportunity and the stability and the development that happens right here in our city. And every country in the world that has tried to keep foreigners out is starving for people right now. And I'm just going to say that again. If you look around the world, take 45 seconds to look around the world where they have put walls up to keep people out. In Japan, in Russia, in China, you can never become a Chinese person as a foreigner. Here in America, you can, which is why we still have people in America. We still have the opportunity for growth in America because we have said yes, we've said welcome, we've said come. So when you think about your safety and you think about your prosperity, think about your neighbor and think about an immigrant and say, thank you, thank God for this community that's coming here to America. We have to stand up. We have to tell this different narrative. We have to shift that number that says in evangelical churches, 2 out of 3 people think this is a problem. This is a blessing, folks. This is a blessing. And I'm thankful for Jamal Abdi, who's back here. He's a Somali immigrant. He's a Somali asylum seeker. He's here in America, and he said, I want you to be liba. That means like a lion. I want you to be a lion, and I want to be a lion. I want you to be a lion in your church. Because we have a debt that we have not yet worked off as Christians, whether you're evangelical or not. We have reaped every benefit. We've reaped every ounce of prosperity and privilege. This is a mostly bright crowd, if I can be honest, right? We've accumulated a lot of privilege as white Christians in this crowd, and I'm not speaking to everybody, but I'm speaking to everybody. We need to stand up, we need to use our privilege, and we need to recast our narrative. Instead of one of suspicion and fear and anxiety, we need to recast our vision of gratefulness, of appreciation, and of prosperity that comes because we are a United States of America. So that's why I'm running for Hennepin County Attorney. I'm so glad you've been here. You've been here for 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. God bless you all. Thank you so much, and have a great night.
Simon Troutman, for Hennepin County Attorney, not District Attorney. Well, we're going to end now. And by the way, we'll play a song when we get done. We should always play a little music as we're leaving. And the song we is queued up there is an old 1970s classic by Helen Reddy that is, I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar. So there are some lionesses, Simon, that are going to roar. Any comments, any questions? Sometimes people finish this and they're like, boy, I wish I could have just asked one thing. So we have time for 2. If any questions, anybody about the ride, about the people, about anything? Yes, Tim. One thing they could change, I mean, this is my quick response personally, and we don't have time for everybody, so Dora, you can give some responses, Alma, afterward, that we'd create a clear pathway by which people know if they can enter this country or not. Putting these people in limbo because we don't have the system to answer their question is a real problem. Coupled with that is that the Border Patrol would treat people with goodness and kindness. It might be something where they can't enter the country. It might be something where they've crossed the desert, but we don't need to put them in cold freezers. We don't need to take their belongings from them. We don't need to drive them 150 miles from where they were picked up and drop them at 3 o'clock in the morning in the middle of nowhere. That does not need to happen. Using cruelty as prevention has been a process of this country that needs to change, and that should be changed right now. The President of the United States should dictate it, and everybody should make that happen. So I would say that is something that requires no votes, no nothing. Just declare that we cannot treat people. The way that police officers in this country treat someone, there's eyes on that. Border Patrol, there's no one overseeing it. Anything else? Yep. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, the documentary is being made by Split Focus Films, which you've seen up here. Two of those people are here. You're not only showing the documentary, we're still making it. Part of the documentary is traveling the country and talking to people about the documentary. So it's very meta. I mean, this is just about as 1992 postmodern documentarian as you can get. That's a freebie for those of you that, giggle at that kind of stuff. But it's also true. The way it's being funded, it's very PBS of us, is by viewers like you. So if you want to make a donation at the back table, if you want to make a donation online, there's ways to do this. If we get your name and your email address and you want us to stay in touch with you, we will tell you much more about that than tonight. But every dollar you give tonight, or if you buy those books back there, which I hope that you do, if you want to donate directly to Dora or to Alma, you can certainly do that. We can take your money in the back and get that to them. But we want people to help fund this film. And then the process will be somewhere in late 2022 this year. Some version of it will be together. Then we'll start getting into film festivals and then try to get picked up by a distributor, and then goes through the film festival process. And then ultimately, somewhere down the line, someone distributes it so you can click a button at home and watch it on your screen on some service you pay $10 a month for. So at the end of those films, you see a bunch of people who donate to it. That's all very real money. That's how the documentary is going to get out. We know that a lot of us who've changed our thinking about anything, especially social issues, can very often trace it back to a documentary. Just think about your own thinking on things. So we know it works to get into people's homes and to let them watch it in their own time, on their own couch, in their own way, really does something. So that's part of the reason that we're using this as a messaging system, and we want people to help donate to that. Big donations, we want $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 donations. We want $100 donations. We want $10 donations, all the way along. And if you go on the website, you'll see ways you can donate in all those spots. At the same time, we don't want to fund a film and leave out the people that are in the film. So we're going to try to find a way to support this kind of work that's going on as well. So that can be, $20 in a little envelope that then is given to a person that needs some help getting into this country. And then if you want to go, we're going to go back to the border a number of times. If you do want to follow up with Alma or Dora, they really do want to talk to you about that, and they're very serious about that. So. Hey, thanks for staying with us so late. But you think this is long? Try riding for 420 days, like Ann and David did back there. That's really long. So thanks for being here, and we'll see you down the road.